today I'm super excited to bring you an interview with someone that I met recently in an amazing conference called Taylor Jones, who I've learned about his journey, but also as well, I think he's probably one of the craziest guys I know, jumping around and living a really extreme lifestyle and traveling is a man after my own heart. If you want to learn more, stay tuned. I'm interested to learn how this guy is getting on in his Amazon business. Okay, guys, today I'm super excited to bring you this interview with Taylor Jones. Why? Because he is an amazing Amazon seller, crazy man, but also he travels, a man after my own heart, something that I absolutely love. Taylor, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to obviously join me and obviously have this interview today. If anyone doesn't know who you are, can you share with us a little bit about yourself and obviously a bit about your history?
Absolutely. Yeah, Tom, thank you for having me on. It's been a minute, haven't done an interview, so happy to be here. I started selling on Amazon. It goes way back to just before the pandemic, like January 2020. And I'd like to, start the story even before that. I graduated college, in 2017 with a business degree, and I come from a family of all workers, corporate jobs, and my dad, worked at the same job for 37 years. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. All my brothers and sisters, got corporate jobs, and that was the advice that I was given. Like, hey, find a good company with a good job, good benefits. So I graduated with my little degree, and up until that point, I really hadn't actually put any serious thought into where my life path was headed. Like, I haven't really sat down and was like, okay, like, what do I want to do with my life? I thought I was going to be a Navy SEAL, and I was training hard for like several years, and then I got injured and changed my mind. Anyways, long story short, I graduated college. I was a bellman. I had like 7 different jobs, and I couldn't figure nothing. Like, I was a bellman. I worked in restaurants. I was all these different things, and nothing really felt like I knew what I was doing. So I finally got the corporate job that my dad was recommended. I was working in sales, because I started following Grant Cardone. And then basically, I was like, this still isn't it, and I enjoyed the selling, but I was like, this is not me sitting at a desk all day. I found Amazon and I started flipping like t-shirts at TJ Maxx, and then I found Amazon. I sold my first book and I sent it to FBA and everything. And like the whole process just made sense in my head. I was like, okay, literally all I have to do is go into stores and find discounted products and send them in, and I can easily replace my income. Fast forward 3 months later, I scaled up. I was doing like 20, 30K a month and quit my corporate job, and I spent the next 8-9 months on the road and sourcing Walmarts. For the first 8 months I was in business. That was really how I got into it. And then it's blown up since then. Started building a following on TikTok, started building the community, and now I'm doing all online arbitrage and traveling the world.
I love it. My God. So you've been selling what? Jan 2020, we're now kind of like February, so what, 2 years, 3 years?
2023, right? So 2020, 2021, 2023, 3 years and 1 month.
3 years. My God, I love the fact that you said, like, it is the classic, go get a job and you'll be sorted for life. And I think a lot of people realize now that actually that was the reality 20, 30 years ago, but it isn't anymore. The world's changed, hasn't it?
100%. Yeah.
Fantastic. No, I love it. My God, you're going to be a Navy SEAL. Man, that stuff's hard.
That was my dream, man. And actually what happened was I was a college wrestler and I suffered some pretty nasty injuries to my knee. And then I met a couple Navy SEALs and he had broke 80% of the bones in his body, he told me. And I was like, as soon as he told me that, I was like, all right, we're moving on to the next thing. That ain't it. I was like, no way. But,
your knees would definitely be a problem after that.
Yeah,
after Navy.
Dude, because I'm my philosophy on my body is like, I want to take care of this vessel, and I want to be 80, 90, 100, hopefully older, and be able to go for hikes and work out. And, I don't want to be falling apart.
It's definitely physically, I can't talk from experience from what I've seen. It's definitely physically demanding. My God, I get worn out going for like a 5K run. I'm like, my body hurts. But that means I'm not fit enough. So obviously you've been studying for 5 years, OA.
3.
If anyone doesn't know, 3 years, sorry, get it right, Tom. 3 years, all 100% OA. Can I ask, revenue-wise, you happy to share that? Like last year, like where are you at?
Yeah, I think last year I closed around 930, 950,000, somewhere in that range. I know.
How did like so close to the seven figure? Like, were you not tempted to like quick dump some stock and just do it, or like do you like no, like I'm here to make money. I don't care about the big numbers.
Yeah, it was like whatever. I honestly was hanging out with the family in December playing video games. I was not even I still did like 80, I still made like over 10K profit in December and I was barely working. Like I must have worked like literally 2, 3 hours a day, 4 days a week. It was barely anything. I was just coasting.
Wow.
But that's kind of what's important to me. And like I go through stages honestly in my business. There's some stages or seasons of my business where I'm like, we need to build this, we need to take this seriously, we need to go. And there's other seasons where I'm like, I just want to hang out and like live, and spend time with my family and my girlfriend and like go travel. So I go through seasons. Right now I'm definitely ending the season of relaxation and it's like, okay, we need to go. Like we need to take this to the next level. For me it's always been this ebb and flow. It's never been this consistent grind.
Question for you. You talked about seasons, and I understand that, but like, what's the indicator or what's the trigger to start and end a season? Should we say? Do you know that?
I think it's different. Like if I were to reflect back, like the first 8 months, right? I was grinding RA in the store, and then I started to feel this burnout, right? I'm like, this ain't it. Like I want to travel. My soul was like, you need to go do something that you want to do. So that began that trigger to start thinking differently and learn that skill of OA, which took me a few months, and then I was scaling that out. And then I would say that it's either burnout could trigger me to slow down, or just knowing that like, hey, I could be doing so much more, I think is also another trigger.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's just kind of like, it's interesting because you talked about December. December's like, man, you got to be working. Like, this is the time to work. You're like, no, man, I'm just playing some computer games with my family. And I think it's amazing that you can do that, and massive respect for you, because you could have been like, I'm so close to seven figures, but you weren't. You're like, I have different priorities in life and I have different values. And my kind of question is like, when and how does that change? I think it's quite an interesting thing. Everyone is different, and I think also as well, you're big on social media. There's a lot of culture of we have to hustle, we have to like, man, you got to grind. Like, why are you not grinding? Let me ask that question. Why are you so lazy, man? I'm not saying you're lazy. I'm joking.
No. It's hilarious. It's a good question, man. I guess for me, the reason I got into Amazon at the very, very beginning was because I didn't like my life. I didn't like being at a desk for 8 hours a day and hanging around people that didn't really care about me. I got into Amazon because I wanted to be able to have a way to make money from my phone or my laptop from anywhere in the world and do what I want when I want. That's why I started Amazon, to have that freedom to do that. So now that I'm in that position to be able to make money from anywhere, I like to be able to enjoy it. And to me, I know that I'm committed to the process of long-term growth in my business and in myself. So if I had $1 million or 10 million in my first 3 years or 8 years, like to me, it's not a huge difference,
I like it. That's really good. Really good. Question for you. Okay, look, so you've been doing 3 years on Amazon. You value balance. Should we say you took Q4 December, you're spending with your family, and you're just about to hit $1 million. Like you were so close, and obviously you will hit it in a rolling 12 months soon. Can you talk us through like that journey? Like, what were the biggest things which made the biggest impact on that journey? If anyone's looking to replicate it, because a lot of people do want that seven-figure number. And I think you pretty much you got there whilst not hustling insanely hard and traveling the world. Like, how do you do it, man? What's the secret?
Yeah, well, I guess my biggest advice, and I think that every stage of your business, I'm sure Tom, you can speak to this, 10,000 a month, 30,000 a month, 100,000 a month, I haven't gotten really too much past that. You run into different struggles. And the first couple of years, I was really just moving on. I had a 5K personal credit card, and I had a little bit of cash, and I was just flipping that with really high ROI. And my biggest problem was I got to find more deals. But now I think as I've gotten, having access to right now, I got Amex cards, I got a couple Chase cards, I got probably, maybe 100K, maybe a little bit more of credit that I'm managing. I know a lot of other people, a lot of our speakers in the community, these kids had access to Amex cards when they were 16, 17. I didn't get my first credit card until I was in over 20, and I didn't get my first business card until this last year. I didn't even know that was a thing. Someone told me, hey, you can get an Amex. So I think the biggest lesson that I'm learning right now is just managing all of this credit and the things you should and should not do. Without a doubt, the biggest mistake that I made last year, and I'm still pulling myself out of this, is I've overspent on personal stuff using credit. And it's like you said just earlier, Tom, before we were recording, you cannot get ahead of yourself. You need to budget out what what you plan on spending and get paying yourself. Because I was making maybe 10 grand, and I'll be like, oh, I'll pay myself 11. I'll take this trip, do this, and guess what? I'll make another 10K next month, and I'll just take that profit from next month and I'll live a little bit. And it's the stupidest thing you can do. If you're making 10, live on 3, pay the business, because you'll wake up and you'll be so much further ahead. And I'm reckless. And of course that might bleed into my finances. So that's the biggest thing I'm learning right now, is managing all that credit and really reinvesting in my business and living below my means. So that would be my biggest advice if you're getting into this game, is this is a cash, credit, capital heavy business, and you need to understand that skill.
I was lucky enough that I learned that skill, that profit in the business isn't profit in your pocket. And there's a saying which I have: you are not your business and your business is not you. You have to treat them two very separate things. Also, one, from a financial perspective, but number two, in the fact that in the event the business fails, doesn't mean you fail. And you've seen it so many times throughout history, and we see it even today. People kill themselves when their business fails. I don't want to bring the tone down, but like, your business is not you and you are not your business. And statistically speaking, businesses all fail. Eventually, given a long enough time horizon, they will all fail. And that's a really important point about saying, I need to just extract money for myself personally, but also as well, I need to be careful, like, because, especially when you're young, a lot of people I know, they spend the company money. And this is called like, oh my God, do not do this. But it's a really interesting point. So I think definitely for learning there. So managing the credit cards, managing the limits, and reinvesting is massive. This is a capital intensive business, 100%.
Yeah.
Question for you. We talked about it a bit off air or before the call, but I think it's a really interesting point. You talked about something to do with Amex, hard limits. Are you happy to share out, like, what does that mean, how it's affected you, what's your understanding around it? Is that okay?
Yeah. So I got my first business cards in February of 2022, so last year, and I got the gold, I got the platinum, and the plum, and then all flexible spending. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is like so exciting. Up until that point, I'd only had personal cards in business for 2 years. So I ran them up, and I was spending probably at that time $40K a month, $50K a month between the cards, but I was paying them off. I was making my payments, and I wasn't paying them off in full per se, but I was making the minimum payments. Like, I never missed a payment, so it was almost in full. I guess the plum I paid overtime. I took advantage of the 30-day, cycle. So that went on for 5 months. And then in July, I got a notification that they're going to be giving me a hard limit on one of my cards. And now all of a sudden, my platinum card, which I was running up to 20, 30K, they gave me a hard limit of 10,000. My gold card, they gave me a hard limit of 4,000. And my plum card, they gave me a hard limit of 30,000. So now I went from having like 70 to 100 to like 40. And that really hit me, and I think emotionally too. I remember being like in Costa Rica, I was in Puerto Viejo, and I got that email, and I'm like, damn, I'm not sure. I didn't know why. I called Amex, I tried to understand. I think they said it had something to do with my income. I remember maybe I submitted my financial statements to them, and they raised a red flag. I'm not totally sure. I didn't get a lot of information. So I'm not super sure, but I still have those limits right now.
And question, just if I clarify, you said gold, platinum, plum. Were they personal or business? I assume personal.
All three of those were business.
Really? Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. If I just talk about it from my perspective, I have platinum gold in the UK, platinum personal in the US, and we just got a blue business in the US. But in the UK, we probably we'll pay it off, like it'll rack it up, pay it off. I've had it quite a few times where they've asked to see our financials. We've had to send them financial statements, 3 months bank statements, and I don't know if they've hard limited during the review, then they were okay. But we set it pretty high numbers, multiple 6 figures. But again, I really understand what you're saying, and it really impacts your cash flow. You're like, and especially when you're saying it's like a cash flow inventory business, it must really impact you.
Yeah.
And no, thank you for sharing that. And I think it's a question on reflection. If anyone else is doing that, is there any advice that you would give them to maybe avoid that, for example?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think maybe I was running them up too high. Oh, so one of the things they told me is that they look at a couple things. Amex does. They look at your average payment size to balance. That's the biggest thing they're looking at, and then they're looking at balance to income ratio too, or something like that. Those two things. They're looking at the average payment size. So my biggest advice to people is, as soon as you get the platinum card, you can run it up to like 20, maybe even 30K. I think anyone can really do that. And when you do that, great, pay it off in full. Don't even use the pay over time balance. Make sure that you take in the first piece of advice and you're reinvesting in your business, pay it off, and just show Amex, nurture that relationship and show them like, hey, I can pay this off no problem. Because if they see that, they're probably not going to raise any red flags. I was using the pay over time balance on the Plum, just making the minimum payment. That was what I was doing. And then when I submitted my financials, maybe they weren't good enough. That would be my only advice. I don't know what else you could do to avoid that. But
and can I ask, you were using the pay over time on what, all the Amex cards?
I think with like the platinum, they give you like a 5K pay over time. So you only can pay over time like 5K, and then the rest you have to pay in full. But the Plum, you get a 60-day cycle, and I was definitely using that.
Wow. When we first got my platinum in the US, I remember, like, I said to my team, you can spend on it, but every week you've got to pay it back down again. So we just kept doing that cycle. And so I really limited them. But I knew, I was like, Amex will not give me money if I keep racking up and just sitting on it. I've got to show a good history of, we are good at this. And we found when we've done it in the UK, we do that payoff every week. They increase your limits dramatically.
Yeah.
Because they see that you're overutilizing the card. I think, don't quote me. You talked about traveling. You're a man after my own heart. Tell me about that. Why do you travel, man? Come on, you should be hustling.
So lazy. It's interesting. I saw maybe when I was like, early 20s, I just had this random urge to travel. I was terrified of it at first. Like I tried to convince my friends and family to come with me because I was scared and they wouldn't. And I just grabbed a backpack, quit my job, and I had like $3,000 staying at hostels, man, right before I started this business. Went to Hawaii, Colombia, volunteered on a farm in Hawaii, Peru. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Like I grew up in a small town, man. Like I graduated with like 80 kids, and it was just small town thinking. And it was really this random urge. Like I hate to get too like spiritual, but it was hands down a soul calling. Like you need to get out, you need to do this, and I had no idea what I was doing at the time. Like I was literally just this intuitive, like I need to go to Colombia, I need to go. And I started that journey, and I met some amazing people. I made some amazing memories. I learned so much about myself. I feel like I'm way better with people now. I'm way better at just trusting. Like my fear levels I don't have really, I'm afraid of things, of course. I experience fear as a human, but I understand now that like when I feel fear, it's an internal thing that I can deal with, and I don't need to freak out. So I've learned so much about myself, made some amazing memories and friends in the process. So I love traveling. It's super, super special to me.
I love it. I think I love it as well. It's a very, you learn a lot about yourself. And I know it from America. Obviously, I live in Mexico City, and I speak to Americans. They're like, is that the most dangerous place in the world? I'm like, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. There's like 100,000 police, and like I can see them all, no problem. But yeah, it's very interesting. I think traveling is an amazing thing. And you're still doing it now? Obviously, you were just in Costa Rica. Like, you still do
Last year was very travel intensive. My girlfriend and I we went to like 7 different countries. Right now, like I said, I'm going into this season of, okay, we got to batten down the hatches. So right now we're in Salt Lake. We'll probably be here for probably 8 to 10 months out of the year. I think we'll probably take a couple trips, but this year is going to be definitely more hanging out.
Question for you. Why do you not go live in somewhere else? Another country?
I think I was trying to convince my girlfriend. I was like, let's go live in Costa Rica, We were actually considering Asia too. Like, let's go to Asia. I think it's a mix of we have family here, and I don't know, honestly. I think it's a multitude of things. I think we definitely both feel more focused too. I think when we're in other countries, like we've been in Costa Rica multiple times. When we're in other countries, it's like, let's go out to eat, or let's go to the beach. Let's go do this. It's hard for us to switch on and off that go mode. So like we're here, it's cold. Like there's literally nothing else to do but work right now, and go to the gym. So it's hard for me,
Yeah.
But maybe one day, maybe we'll do the like the 6 months in Asia thing. I don't know.
Do it. You'll love it. I think you'll love it. I do know what you mean. Like I'm looking out the window right now, and in Mexico City, it's a beautiful day. And I come from England, whereby you get beautiful days like this 2 weeks a year. That's it. And whenever I go outside to do anything, I'm like, man, this is like the best day of like my life. I should be outside. But like this is like every day here. So I've kind of got to the point where I'm okay with just working if I need to work for the entire time. But also quite a lot of the time when I go outside, I'm like, this is amazing. So I know what you mean, but I've been doing it long enough. But yeah, it's about getting yourself into a good routine and being productive whilst traveling, which is quite a challenge.
Yeah.
For that.
No, definitely. And then, like I said, yeah, seasons. Like last year was a lot of travel. Like honestly, I've been enjoying being in one place and developing that routine. So, because
Nice. Yeah,
well, I was gonna say and I don't know, maybe you've gone through this, Tom, but I feel like too much of anything sort of becomes its opposite. Like the weirdest thing that I felt last year, and I had never felt this for like the first 3 years I was traveling, is it became a chore because we were living nomadically, literally all last year. We were living nomadically, and it was amazing for the first like 7 months, and then it slowly and surely became a chore. It's like, gotta find another Airbnb, gotta find another hotel, gotta figure out, gotta go buy groceries again because we're in a new place, you know? So I think leaning in and out of it. I don't know. Have you gone through that, Tom? Like, has it became a chore to you?
No, I always knew that I never wanted to do that kind of like high intensity traveling. I always generally tried to do 1 to 3 months if I was in a place, and I try to spend a lot of time. So I did like 6 months Thailand, Phuket, Bangkok, and Chiang Mai. And the majority is Chiang Mai, 5 months. But the Bangkok and Phuket were very much like, I'm here as a tourist. I will do some work, but I'll enjoy it. And then Chiang Mai is where I'm going to base and do some more work. Vietnam, I did a year and a half in Hanoi, and then 6 months in Saigon. Yeah, like it's a balance. So they basically just did Philippines, but that was very much like I will do minimum amounts of work and travel. But I did a lot. Some nights it was like one night in Dubai, 2 nights in Abu Dhabi, like kind of on the way there. Lots of different travel. So, but again, I think there's balance. I think there really is, and you work insanely hard up to that, knowing that you've got 1 month of say quite intense travel. And then that your travel is going to go really high and your work's going to go really low. And then after that, you're going back to somewhere else. Maybe it's Costa Rica for 5 months, and then it flips around the other way.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have a home base in the UK? Like a home in the UK?
I've not lived in the UK for 5 years.
Okay, so
I left 5 years ago and never came back.
So you're fully nomadic right now. Like you don't have a full.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's a unique lifestyle, man. It's not for everyone.
But look, let me ask. I think the question I would ask is, I'll say this back to you in another way in a minute. I'm not saying, by the way, while it is technically nomadic in the fact that I'm a UK resident national, is the fact that I've lived in Mexico City for a year and a half now, I think it is. So this is home really, if you think of it that way. So it's really my home is Mexico City, while I'm technically someone, a citizen somewhere else. But you living in Costa Rica, there's nothing stopping you. You have an online business, you're able to do it. Obviously, apart from the desire to be with family, but there is nothing technically stopping you. It's just a wanton desire. And a lot of people will say that's impossible. And the reality of the fact that it isn't, you've pretty much done it already or demonstrated that you can do it. And if you think about it through the same lens or the same prism or perspective or paradigm of it's impossible to build a business online to make money. That was a dream when we were younger. Everyone said it was a scam. And now look at you do this. And by the way, I think more and more people will have, we talk about COVID, people working more remotely. You are now going to see a lot more people probably living in different countries doing that. Why live in the US when you can live in Mexico just around the corner and earn a US salary? So many Americans are doing that right now. It begs the question, and the world's becoming a lot smaller because of internet connectivity, and COVID's changed it and has sped up that process.
Yeah.
So, when for us for our parents traveling the world was seen as impossible, but when your children traveling the world will be an requirement. Oh, bless you. So, question for you. You talked about it earlier. You're growing to 7 figures. We talked about it off air. You've got a team. We had a team.
Team of one.
So we went on with it. Can you tell me about that? What was it? What is it now? What happened?
Yeah, team of 1. I had 4, and 3 of them were when I had 4 5 months ago, 3 of them were all sourcing. I did not have the management skills or structure with the team to make it feel like I was getting the return on that investment. I just felt like I was spending all of my time managing these people, and the lead quality did not justify that time management. I was spending hours So probably should have reached out for help at that point and been like, okay, who's doing this really good already? Like, what am I missing? But I didn't. I was like, okay, I'm just going to let all these people go. So now I have one VA that manages all my administrative stuff. She does all my spreadsheets. She works in my Seller Central, customer service, basically does all that stuff that, is not skill based. And then I'm basically just, what I do is I go in and I source, I find the leads, and then I'll send her like, hey, let's get 100 of this, So she does some of my purchasing. If it's a weekend, sometimes I'll place my own purchases. But yeah, she's my only VA right now.
It's really interesting because obviously you can grow to 7 figures on your own, but like physically making the purchase is a bit laborious. You're like, I want to shoot myself sometimes, and like, oh, it's got cancelled, or like there's a problem. Like being able to outsource that to someone who just does the buying can be a really good process and really good thought. So I do like that. I think that's good,
especially when you're working with websites that can, only 4 at a time or 10 at a time, and you want to buy 200. It's like, okay, now you got to place 20 orders, and it's going to take 5 to 10 minutes a piece, maybe quicker, but that's an hour or two, and it's like you're literally just typing in the same numbers. So
different email address.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer, So she's been super helpful. I'm glad I kept her.
Yeah, fantastic. And can I ask a question for you? Letting go of staff was hard. Like, how did that go?
Oh,
you had 4 VAs, got one. Tell me about that process.
It was terrible, honestly. The first, 2 of them, it was okay because I was like, I only had them for a few months, and it was extremely clear that their performance was not that good. However, the one VA that I had, and I'll drop a little piece of advice here, June hit, and my business did not do very well in June. I bought some very poor products. I was not analyzing my numbers and the return rates as well as I should have, and my profit went way down. During that time, I cut my VA's wage. My best VA, Tiffany. Shout out to Tiffany. She's on Instagram if she's watching this. I'm sorry. I miss you. Come back. No, I'm just kidding. But she was amazing. She was an engineer. She was extremely skilled. They're always thinking ahead about, like, hey, did we look at this? Always thinking ahead. Very, very talented. But during difficult times, I cut her wage from $4 an hour to $2 an hour. And she ended up leaving like the next month. And I was looking back, I shouldn't have cut her wage. I could have weathered the storm, and I should have, because when you have skilled people are hard to come by, and especially if you've already invested a year training them, don't cut their pay. Keep them, show them some love, send them a monitor, do whatever you got to do, and make them feel loved, because if they don't feel that, then yeah, they're going to go look somewhere else. So I made that mistake, and I had to retrain someone else who I now have, Jen, and yeah, that was the biggest mistake I made. So that was the most difficult part, letting her go, because I had invested a year training her,
It's a really interesting thing in the fact that, like, people don't realize, like, when you think about your staff, the longer they're with you, the more inherent knowledge and they just pick up through just being with you. And like, once you've got to start, you're like, maybe they're not so great, and then you get someone new, and you're like, oh my god, there's like a massive difference, because you don't see that growth.
Yes,
it's just every day they seem like the same.
It's very subtle.
Yeah, it is. It's a very important point.
Yeah.
And also, like, I talk about it with my team. I'm like, the reason why our staff come to work is because they want to get paid. And at the very fundamental level, if we mess up pay, they will question their ability why they're working here. So there's one thing we have to guarantee we get right consistently, day in and day out, paying them correctly.
Yeah.
Luckily enough, my managers are really good at it. They do the payroll, but they're like, Tom, can we pay early? I'm like, well, if the cash flow is there, fine, no problem, do what you like. And then I had a conversation with one of my VAs yesterday. She was like, one thing I really love about this company is you guys pay. Sometimes you pay early. I really love it. I was like, cool. So, they love that. So I think it's a really important point, and it's an understanding about people's motivations and why they do what they do. But hey, by the way, like, you're going to lose really good staff throughout your journey as an entrepreneur. This happens, but every time it's a learning curve. I think that's it. Don't get caught up on it. Well done for you for being positive.
Yeah.
Question for you. You recently did, obviously, we met in person, Miami Sellers Conference. Probably took a lot of work prior to that. Obviously, you partied a lot during it. Let me ask you a question. Why did you do it? Why did you create this event? Why did you have all the stress, the risk? You had to like put money down for a boat, a venue, all this stuff. Could have made a massive loss. You've done it for 3 years now. Why did you do it?
Yeah, well, the first year we actually did lose money. And the reason we started it was when Avery and I met, he's the co-founder, of the conference with me. He drastically changed my business and my life because, like I said at the beginning, I was hustling Walmarts, bro, for 8-10 hours a day. I was in my car moving. And when I met him, we met through TikTok. This is probably just about a year into business. When I met him, I'm like, I saw this guy that was, we instantly became friends. We had a lot in common. We're both entrepreneurs. We both sold on Amazon. We both wrestled. So we both loved to travel. So we had a lot in common. But I noticed his business was entirely remote. He'd sleep until 11. He was functioning on a completely different wavelength than me, bro. And I didn't realize until I met him how fast we can learn from other people. Because I was just hanging out with him. I was absorbing all of this knowledge. He was talking about SOPs. He was talking about VAs. He was talking about systems and delegation. And he's like, why? And one day I'm packing my own packages and he walks in and he's like, dude, what are you doing? Like it was almost insulted that I was packing my own orders. And I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, I just found this crazy item. I'm going to make all this money. I'm like, I'm getting this to the customer. And he's like, bro, you could pay you could pay a prep center $1.50 a unit. Why are you packing that yourself? He was like insulted because he values that skill as an entrepreneur so much. So literally within 3 months of meeting this kid, I'm like, wow, this guy's like drastically changed what my business is and what I'm understanding about business. And I think both of us were super inspired about, traveling together. We went to Costa Rica together. And long story short, the point I'm trying to make is this: I was super inspired. Like, hey, like there's no events, like cool, fun events that we can go to as Amazon sellers to meet new people and learn from each other. So that was really the intention. Like, let's just put an event on. We'll promote it to our audiences and see who shows up. We lost like $3,000 the first year. We had 40 people. The second year we had like 90 people. And this last year we had 160 people in the room, fully packed, and so many people came up and were, such good connections. Like, thank you so much guys for putting this on. So that's really why we do it, was that you can learn so much from other people, and it makes the process and journey more enjoyable when you get to enjoy it with other people. Do podcasts like this, take trips, whatever.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I'll just kind of summarize it. You were doing well, you were making money, packing product, and at that moment in time, you're like, man, I'm balling. Like, I'm not doing this like corporate stuff. I can travel the world, I can do what I like, or I've got this money making machine. I'm really happy. And you meet someone else who's like, what the hell are you doing? You're like, I'm making money, man. Like, I feel good. He's like, no, you're being stupid. And you're like, I can change your game completely. You're like, I did not even see that. And I think that's a really interesting thing. And like the power of networking, the power of putting yourself out there on a social level and getting to know one another is the fact that, put it this way, the majority of the people right now don't know that they're not buying from Amazon when they buy on Amazon. They're buying from you and me, for example. You don't know what you don't know. And until you meet people who show you that, you can't see that. And it's like, if you look at Amazon right now and you're like, wow, you can make this money selling online, like that's incredible. And you're like, a year ago you didn't know that, or like 5 years ago you didn't know that. What else don't you know? And it's like, I have a mission that I have to go find that information, because that is going to change my life in ways I never even thought possible. And I come back to you and the fact that you were like, I'm going to business school, man, I'm getting a corporate job. And if someone were to tell you back then, like, hey, you're going to go live in Costa Rica for like 9 months and just, do what you like, you'd be like, impossible, never going to happen. Or like, I'm going to be homeless, no money. But you've proven that wrong. And I think that's a really it's an amazing story, and it's an amazing journey of like where you've come from, but also discovery. And well done to you for networking, putting yourself out there, taking risks, and doing things like the Seller Conference. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great point, Tom. Like, you don't know what you don't know, man. You don't know what you don't know. And even talking to you, 75 VAs, I can't not confront the fact that I have so much to learn, So I think, it's a great point. So that's why we do it. And it's been great. We're excited for next year. It's going to be a blast. Hopefully to have you back.
I hope, obviously, I'll be there, definitely. Question for you: where are you going to be in a year's time? Tell me about that. I'll see you next year, Miami Sellers Conference. But what's it going to look like? What's the future hold?
I hope to. Let's see. That's a great question. I hope to have more credit, more capital, and better managing that. Right. That's my goal for the next 1 to 2 months. I'm executing on. So increasing the credit lines, growing to 1.5, 2 million in OA. So scaling out that. I'm getting into Airbnb arbitrage. So I have like 3 things I'm renting out, 3 units, 3 apartments. So I'd love to continue to grow that. And I think the one other thing is to maybe continue to build out a team. I'd love to be working less too. So maybe training for some sourcing or some purchasing and start building that team back out in the right way. So that's where I see myself in a year. Yeah.
Fantastic. And if anyone wants to get in contact, what's the best way of doing it?
Instagram definitely is the way. Taylor Jones _official is the best place to find me on Instagram.
Fantastic. And if anyone wants to know, I'll drop it down below so you can access that as well. But Taylor, I just want to say thank you so much. Obviously, I will catch you in 1 year's time. I'm looking forward to doing an update video on seeing how you're on that journey. Hopefully, traveling the world, multiple millions, and obviously the Airbnb arbitrage. And obviously, we can learn more about how that's gone and share some knowledge. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on, brother.